Śrīrūpam Sagrajatam Ahagana Raghunatham Vidam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tatpakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda He Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Vicharine Nirvisesa Sunnavadi Paschatya Desakari. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So yesterday we saw from the exemplary life and character of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya that how from his birth he had the very privileged association of very pure devotees of the Lord. Who was the first devotee to enter into the life of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya? Quickly. Pradeep Prabhu?
Kanchipurna, Prabhuji.
No, Kanchipurna was not the first one.
Das Rasi.
Huh?
Das Rasi.
Das Rati is his disciple. Huh? You people are speculating. I asked Pradeep Prabhu, please hear. Pradeep Prabhu, who was the first person?
Mahapurna.
No. Mahapurna was the spiritual master. When he took birth, who gave him the name?
His uncle.
What is his name? How can you forget? Huh? You come from Andhra. He is Sri Shailapurna. Sri Shaila is near to Tirupati. How can you forget? His mother's sister is Shailapurna, Sri Shailapurna. And he gave the name Ramanuja. So since his birth, he had the blessings of a great Vaishnava who was the disciple of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. And then when he relocated, what was his birthplace? Ganesh Prabhu?
Śrīpāda.
Śrīpāda. At least you should spell it right. We will struggle because none of us are Tamilian. Śrīpāda. Or it is also called Bodhayanpuri. Bodhayanpuri. And where did they used to go to pray? His parents?
Temple.
No, what do you remember? To Shri Radha Parthasarthi in Chennai. He came much later to Varadaraj. And by the blessings of Shri Radha Parthasarthi in Chennai, that is Divya Desham. I spoke about it yesterday. You have to be very attentive. So he takes birth with the blessings of Shri Radha Parthasarthi, and on his birth he is blessed by Shri Shailapurna. And while he was growing up in Śrīpāda or Bodhayanpuri, he also got the audience of another great Vaishnava, Who is he? Kanchipurna. Kanchipurna. And after his father passed away, they relocated and came to Kanchipuram. And he had very special affection for the deity of Lord Varadaraj. And what service he used to perform? Every day he used to bring water. There is a little correction. It is not a river, but there is a well there. A very special well from where he used to bring water for service of Lord Varadaraj. And he gets admission. He goes for education under the guidance of Sri Yadav Prakash. And Sri Yadav Prakash is the follower of Shankaracharya, who follows the impersonalism. And there the first conflicts happen. And seeing the prophecy and the devotion of Ramanuja, Yadav Prakash becomes very insecure and envious. And he tries to kill him. But Ramanuja is always pacified, he is always calm, he is never disturbed. And we see the Supreme Lord himself in the guise of a hunter, and his wife comes and rescues him and takes him back to Kanchipuram. And his name and fame goes beyond Kanchipuram. And the most important incident which happens is that the Alvar, the spiritual master of the Sri Sampradaya, Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya, visits Varadaraj, and his merciful glance falls upon Ramanuja. And he prays to Lord Varadaraj. See what powerful prayer of a Vaishnava is, that Ramanuja be released from the clutches of Yadav Prakash. And he wants Rāmānujācārya to come to Srirangam. And when Rāmānujācārya reaches Srirangam, he comes to know that Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya has passed away. So what are the three vows? Most of people are having video off, so I cannot ask them question. They don't want to participate in the katha. Very disappointing. What to speak? Only 3-4 people wants to participate, others don't want to participate. Anyway, my entire enthusiasm to speak, it fizzles out. Better to have a live class where audience are in front. Want to speak. So the 3 fingers which were closed of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya, 3 vows were taken by Rāmānujācārya. Sonika, your case is exceptional because you are doing your service, but none of the others are doing that. So don't think that I am speaking to you, I am speaking to all others. But the point is, the conditioned soul, if he sees one person doing something wrong, his heart is very much inclined to follow that. He cannot see others doing right. He will not accept what others are doing right. That is what the propensity is. And we want to continue with the same propensity. So life after life, it will continue the same. So anyway, so the 3 vows are taken. So I will read, I'll share with you one write-up. You see, Manish Prabhu is giving a write-up, but I'll share with you one very, very detailed and very well written write-up. This is a write-up on the life of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. When I was first preparing on Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya, so I read this entire write-up. It is not big, it is around 97 pages. I found it somehow in the internet. And then I also found His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami Maharaj series on Rāmānujācārya. He has given 12 lectures. And after hearing his lecture, when I read the book, it was exactly the same from this book only. So Maharaj has given 12 classes. So I'll share some of the main preachings and the teachings of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. And I will also share that PDF with all of you. So you can read if you want to really get into the details of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya's contribution I had shared it when we were in Srirangam. I don't know how many of you opened it. So Rāmānujācārya, when he visited the last final moment of Yamunacharya, he was very disappointed. But he decides to return to Kanchi, and he definitely has taken a vow to fulfill the promises that he had made at the final moments of Sri Ram Yamunacharya. Before the body was buried in Samadhi tomb on the banks of Kaveri, Ramanuja had left Srirangam to return to Kanchipuram. Yamunacharya's disciple had asked him to take darshan of Lord Ranganath, but he had refused, saying, so see, the same Lord Ranganath, the most powerful deity, I do not wish to see this cruel form of the Lord, who would not grant my most cherished desire, and who has taken away the Lord of my heart. Then he had departed without speaking another word to anyone. But we cannot imitate this. Something very high. From that day, Ramanuja personally changed, and he became much more grave and serious. Why? Because in his heart, he had accepted Yamunacharya to be his spiritual master, and he wanted to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master. We see the same case of Srila Prabhupada also. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he departed on 31st December 1936, or sometimes it is written as early 1st January 1937. And just before the departure of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had replied to Srila Prabhupada's letter. Prabhupada had written a letter to him while he was in Calcutta. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in that letter wrote again to Prabhupada, at that time Abhay Babu, to fulfill his desire to go and preach the message of Lord Chaitanya to the Western speaking world. And Prabhupada became very grave because just after that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur departed. And Prabhupada was always contemplating how to fulfill the wish and desire, the last wish and desire of his spiritual master. So Yamunacharya had passed away, and Ramanuja was contemplating how to fulfill the promises he had made. He was now even more reluctant to spend time in the company of non-devotees. For long periods, he would remain alone studying the scriptures, and he found true happiness only in the company of Kanchipurna. About 6 months before the disappearance of Yamunacharya, Ramanuja's mother, Kantimati, had left this world. So we see in the life of Acharyas, you will always see there are constant struggles, there are tribulations, and there are also such big personal losses. Ramanuja, in his infancy, he had lost his father. And while he was young, his mother passed away, and to whom he wanted to surrender as a disciple, the spiritual master also left. But they are not ever dejected. Now Rakshambal, the wife of Ramanuja, was the mistress of the house. So there is another angle, another twist in the life of Srila Rāmānujācārya, is his wife. And we see how much the wife is non-cooperative, non-supportive. She was beautiful as an apsara, devoted to her husband and very strict in her cleanliness and observance of rituals. But unfortunately, she had been unable to imbibe her husband's pure love of God and was more attached to the external feature of religious rituals. I'll increase the font. She was unhappy to see her husband becoming more and more absorbed in devotional sentiments. After his return from Srirangam, although she tried to conceal her inner feelings, Ramanuja now passed a lot of his time in the company of Kanchipurna. What is so special about Kanchipurna? Who remembers? This is the second pure devotee in the life of Rāmānujācārya. Quickly. Sonika, I will not give you the chance because you already know. Those who are hearing and those who are not in Srirangam Yatra. Dolamani Prabhu, what is so special about Kanchipurna?
Which I'm not able to remember.
Because you did not write. Did you write yesterday notes?
Yes, I wrote Prabhuji, but I'm not able to revise that.
How can you not remember? Kanchipurna was the person who was directly speaking with Lord Varadaraj. So Ramanuja was spending most of his time, he was not meeting anyone. And he was not inclined to give more importance to her wife also. So he was fixed in his devotion to Lord Varadaraj. And he was feeling separation from his guru, from his spiritual master, Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Understanding his mind, Kanchipurna told him one day that you should not be troubled at heart. Just remain fixed in your devotion to Lord Varadaraj and continue to serve him in every possible way. Yamunacharya has now returned to the abode of Lord Narayan, and it is your duty to fulfill the promises you made before him. When he heard of these words of instruction, Ramanuja bowed before Kanchipurna and said, "Please allow me to be your disciple." So it's very important, as we see that we were discussing, that Sampradaya Vihinate Mantraste Nisfalas. So Ramanuja, who is none other than Lakshmana or Ananta Shesha, he is also so eager, so desperate. He could not take shelter of Yamunacharya. Yamunacharya wanted to make Ramanuja his disciple. And Yamunacharya had asked for Ramanuja. But now Ramanuja became so keen, so interested, so desperate that he begged Kanchipurna to become his disciple. Immediately Kanchipurna raised Ramanuja saying, "You are a Brahmana and I am a Shudra. How can I initiate and receive obeisances from one who is my master?" Just see the humility. Just have faith in the Lord and sooner or later, he will surely send someone who is fit to be your guru. Having said this, Kanchipurna left to worship Lord Varadaraj. Ramanuja thought to himself, he is refusing to accept me because he knows how my heart is devoid of all devotional sentiments. How can birth or caste affect a person who is an intimate associate of Lord Varadaraj? Merely by his merciful glance, Kanchipurna can elevate a dog eater to the level of a Brahmana. Therefore, if I am able to taste the remnants of his food only once, then I will gain immeasurable benefit. So you see the innermost genuine feelings of Ramanujacharya. He is not considering that he is coming from a Brahmana family and Kanchipurna is a non-Brahmana. He is considering his heart impure and unfit to become the disciple. So what he thinks or what he plans, he says that if I taste the remnants of the food only once, then will I gain the immeasurable benefit. So there are three things which are very, very powerful. Bhakta Pada Dhuli, Bhakta Pada Jala, and Bhakta Bhukta Avashesh. 18 Mahabal. So Ramanuja decides to invite Kanchipurna for prasad at his residence. And he tells his wife to prepare. So when the time of arrival for Kanchipurna was decided, somehow Kanchipurna came early because he had to go for his service to Lord Varadaraj. And he comes to the house of Ramanuja, and Ramanuja is not present, and his wife Rakshambal, she receives him And she said that my husband has gone to your house to bring you here. If you wait for a short time, he will soon return. But Kanchipurna, because he was very dedicated in his service, how can I neglect my service of Lord Vardharaj just for the sake of my stomach? So Rakshambal, whatever she had prepared, she nicely served Kanchipurna. And Kanchipurna, after finishing his prasad, he went for the service of Lord Vardharaj. And after a while, Ramanuja comes back. And Ramanuja comes back and he sees that Rakshambal is cleaning the kitchen. So Ramanuja inquires that, did you not prepare meal for Kanchipurna, the great Kanchipurna? And she says, yes, he did come and I served him. And whatever was left, I gave it to a Shudra woman. And now I am cleaning the kitchen so that I can prepare for you. Why? Because she thought that Kanchipurna comes from the lower Brahmana caste, which is the Shudra caste. And she herself had so much of pride of being in the Brahmana caste. So she did not allow Ramanuja what Ramanuja had planned to get the remnants. She took away everything and threw it out, considering it to be abominable. So Ramanuja becomes very disturbed. He says, you foolish woman, how can you think of Kanchipurna as no more than a Shudra? Because of you, I am now unable to take the prasad of that pure-hearted devotee. And this is my great misfortune. So in this way we see that Ramanuja, he had nothing favorable in his life. His father and mother, who were great devotees, they had left. His sought after spiritual master Yamunacharya had left. And his wife was completely non-supportive, non-cooperative, and not non-understanding of the inner devotion and the mission of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. So Kanchipurna, as I said yesterday, Kanchipurna had once inquired from Vardharaj that, will I be able to come to your abode? And Vardharaj said, Lord Vardharaj said that I don't know. So Kanchipurna goes to Tirupati to be able to serve the pure devotee. So then Ramanuja is all alone in Kanchipuram. There is no one. The only pure devotee, Kanchipurna, he has also left to Tirupati. Lord Vardharaj instructs to Ramanuja. So Kanchipurna arose and set off to return to Kanchi when Ramanuja heard of this return. So then after some time, Kanchipurna comes back to Kanchi from Tirupati. And when Ramanuja hears this, he is very happy. And they meet. And Ramanuja tells him that since I left the school of Yadav Prakash, I have continued the study of scriptures alone. But there are certain points I cannot understand. And this is causing a great disturbance in my mind. Please beg the Lord to enlighten me. For I know Sri Vardharaj will never deny any request that comes from your lips. So we see this is a lesson which is coming to us from the life of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. That on one's own, one cannot study scriptures or get to the conclusion. Is it possible that Ramanuja could not understand? That's not possible. But he's setting an example. So he's requesting Kanchipurna to request on his behalf to Lord Vardharaj so that he can get a spiritual teacher who can teach him the scriptures. So next day when the young Brahmana came to visit him, he spoke very confidently. So next day, Rāmānujācārya meets a young Brahmana. And what that Brahmana says, that last night Lord Vardharaj spoke to me and told me that I should reveal the following 6 truths to you. So there are the 6 truths which were revealed by Lord Varadaraj through the Brahmana. The Lord directly did not reveal. That is why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tad vidhi paripatena pariprasnena sevya. And we see from the lives of the great acharyas also that it is imperative to have a spiritual master. So there were the 6 teachings. I have noted it. What are the 6 teachings? I don't want to go to the shloka. First is the Supreme Brahman, that is the Lord Vishnu. He is the cause of material nature, and the universes emanates from him, Mahavishnu. From his inhaling, the entire universe is the universes, they, by his breathing, by his exhalation, the universes come into this material creation, and by his breathing in, there is dissolution. And the second teaching is that the Supreme Lord and the Jiva, they have separate existence. So his teaching is Shuddha, Vasisht Advaita, Vishisht. What is Vasisht? That both are separate existence. And what is liberation? It was revealed to him that the true path of surrender to the lotus feet of Lord is liberation. And devotees, they are certainly liberated, even if they fail to remember the Lord at the time of death. As we read in the 8th chapter, Krishna confirms in the final verses of the 8th chapter, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhava Arjuna. If one is engaged in devotional service, it does not matter whether he remembers the Lord or he does not remember the Lord. Because he is fixed in devotional service, the Supreme Lord remembers him and gives him his remembrance. So these truths were all revealed to this Brahmana. And then finally the 5th instruction that he received, that the devotees give up their present bodies, and Lord Varadaraj promises, Varadaraj, he is the king of the greatest benedictions. And what is the greatest benediction? He says, I personally bring them to my abode. And there was another very revolutionary revelation. As Kanchipurna had promised that Lord Varadaraj will guide you. So the Brahmana told that Lord Varadaraj wants that you should immediately take shelter of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya's disciple, Mahatma Mahapurna. So Ramanuja, when he heard these 6 essential truths concerning him, he was very ecstatic. He was in great bliss and he started to dance. When Ramanuja heard these words, he began to dance in ecstasy. He had not revealed his 6 doubts even to Kanchipurna. But now the Lord has supplied the answer to all of them. Having offered obeisances to Sri Varadaraj and to Kanchipurna, he returned home and prepared to depart for Srirangam. There he hoped to find Mahapurna, one of Yamunacharya's disciples, and take initiation from him. Yamunacharya had sent actually Mahapurna only. So previously Mahapurna came to take him to Yamunacharya. In the meantime, in Srirangam, all the disciples, the major disciples, the leading disciples of Yamunacharya, they had already witnessed the Ramanuja when he had come to the final moment of Yamunacharya. So they were deliberating how to get Ramanuja to Srirangam. So they wanted that the succession after Yamunacharya to be followed by Ramanujacharya. On the anniversary of Yamunacharya disappearance, that is 1 year after the passing away of Yamunacārya, all his disciples gathered together and Tiruvaranga addressed the assembly. It is now 1 year, he began, since our Guru Maharaj Yamunacārya left us to return to the abode of Lord Narayan. While he was with us, it was our great fortune that every day we were able to hear his nectarine words. However, since his disappearance, no one has been able to describe the glories of the Lord in such an exquisite manner or expound all the subtle points of the scriptures as he was able to do. So they were all feeling the separation of their spiritual master. All of you may recall how just prior to his departure, our master desired to see Sri Rāmānuja of Kanchipurnam, and he sent Mahapurna there to fetch him. It is that great soul alone, the intimate friend of Kanchipurna, who, having been chosen by Sriman Yamunacārya himself, is competent to take the responsibility as Acharya for this ashram. Therefore, let one of us go to Kanchipuram, and after initiating him, bring him here to Srirangam. He will spread the teachings of Yamunacārya all over India, as he promised to do, whilst looking to the body of our preceptor. So both ways there was the same desire. Ramanuja was instructed by Lord Varadaraj to take shelter of Yamunacārya's disciple Mahapurna, whereas Mahapurna and his other god brothers, Yamunacārya's disciple, they were also very keen and desiring to have Ramanuja in Srirangam. So Mahapurna is selected from the assembly of Yamunacārya's disciple to do this service, to travel again from Srirangam and bring Ramanujacārya from Kanchipuram. So all the accepted devotees unanimously accepted Tiruvaranga's proposal, and Mahapurna was chosen to go to Kanchipuram to initiate Ramanuja and bring him to Srirangam. He was told, if at present he is reluctant to abandon the association of Kanchipurna, then do not press the matter. You may remain in Kanchi for 1 year, instructing him in the Bhakti Shastras. He need not be told that your purpose is to bring him to Srirangam. So this was kept secret. Thus being instructed, Mahapurna along with his wife set for Kanchipuram. After 4 days, they reached the town of Madhurantakam, where there is Vishnu temple with a lake in front of it. While Mahapurna and his wife were resting beside that lake, Ramanuja, so Mahapurna starts from Srirangam to come to Kanchipuram, and from Kanchipuram, with a great intensity and desire to take shelter of Mahapurna, because it was instructed by Lord Varadaraj, Ramanuja starts to go towards Srirangam. And both of them meet in the entering point of the town of Madhurantakam. So, when Ramanuja comes to know that Mahapurna is here in Madhurantakam, so see how he responds. Ramanuja suddenly appeared there offering obeisances at his feet. Mahapurna was both surprised and delighted by his unexpected turn of events, and he immediately rose to embrace Ramanuja. This is certainly a surprise, he said. Anything can be accomplished by the grace of Lord Narayan. For what reasons have you come here? This must certainly be the plan of Lord Narayan, Ramanuja replied. For it was only to find you that I left Kanchipuram. Varadaraj himself has instructed me to accept you as my Guru. Please bestow your mercy upon me by initiating me at once. See how keen he is. He does not even want a moment to pass. Mahapurna agreed to this request, saying, let us go to Kanchipuram so that the ceremony can be performed before Lord Varadaraj. However, Ramanuja was insistent. You know that death makes no distinction between the timely and the untimely. He said, do you not recall with what high expectations I went with you to meet Sri Yamunacārya? Providence cheated me then. So why should I trust him now by allowing any delay. Please give me shelter at the lotus feet right at this very moment. This is what awareness is or wakefulness is. He did not even want to wait for a few days or for a few hours. Mahapurna was pleased by Ramanuja's word, and there on the banks of the lake, in the shade of the flowering bakula tree, where in Madhurantakam, in the town of Madhurantakam. So that is the place where Rāmānujācārya took initiation. So initiation happens, and it is agreed that Ramanuja, Mahapurna and his wife, they will all for the time being come to Kanchipuram, not to Srirangam. So they come to Kanchipuram. So now Rāmānujācārya is the initiated disciple of Mahapurna. Mahapurna is his guru, and his Guru Mata is there. So they were all staying in Kanchipuram, and in Kanchipuram, Mahapurna was teaching the various scriptures to Rāmānujācārya. So 6 months passed like this, and Rāmānuja felt great satisfaction in hearing all the truths of Vaishnava philosophy from Mahapurna. So this is how the Acharya shows. Even if Ramanuja is coming on his own, he is showing us by his own personal example that how much essential it is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and to hear Shastra from his. So he was hearing from Mahapurna. But Mahapurna, wife and Rakshambal, they did not go along very well. So one day what happened that they were going and fetching water from the well. And it so happened that the water from the well which was being driven out, Mahapurna's wife's bucket, some of the water spilled in Rakshambal's bucket. And Rakshambal became very wild. She condemned Mahapurna's wife. She says that, how can I use water that has been touched by you? But why should I blame you for having fallen into the hands of this husband of mine? All my caste and position is lost. So this lady, Rakshambal, she was so proud of her high Brahmanical lineage that she had first offended Sri Kanchipurna, and now she also offended the wife of Mahapurna. When this harsh word Mahapurna's wife heard, who was by nature calm and modest, begged forgiveness. However, being very disturbed by the woman's anger, she set down her pitcher and began to weep quietly. So this Mataji, she returns home and she tells everything to her husband Mahapurna. And when Mahapurna learns of all this, what has happened, he becomes very thoughtful, and eventually he says that it is no longer the will of Lord Narayan that we should remain here. And for this reason, he has caused you to hear these unkind words from the mouth of Rakshambal. Do not be sorry over this matter. So they decide, Mahapurna and his wife decides that they will no longer remain in Kanchipuram, and they return to Srirangam. So Mahapurna returns, and when Mahapurna returns, Rāmānujācārya, who is searching after his guru Mahapurna, he does not find him. During the 6 months they had spent together, Rāmānuja had studied almost 4,000 verses composed by the great Vaishnava of South India. 4,000 divided by 180. What is the count? Thank you. How many? 4,000 divided by 180?
22, Prabhuji.
So we don't have an average of even 2. So these were the discourse which were given by Mahapurna to Rāmānuja. So what it means to say that how he was showing a sign of a very sincere disciple, of a sincere student, who went through the process of accepting a spiritual master, hearing from him, studying under his guidance. And when he comes to know that because of his wife's poor behavior and misconduct, he has lost his guru. So Rāmānuja becomes very disturbed and he decides that he will give up the householder life and he will take sannyas. So he plays a trick because he knew if Rakshambal is around, she will again create some mishappening, some foiling. So he tricks, he sends a Brahmana, and the Brahmana comes to Rakshambal with an invitation saying that there is marriage in the house of Rakshambal and she has been invited to come with her husband Rāmānuja. So Rāmānuja tells Rakshambal that I have some service for Lord Vardharaj, so I cannot go. But I will not stop you. So you can go. So in this way, Rakshambal leaves, and in the absence of Rakshambal, Rāmānuja decides to take the highest order of sannyas. When she had left, Rāmānuja walked back to the temple of Lord Vardharaj, praying constantly to the Lord within his mind. O Lord Narayan, please allow this servant of yours to take full shelter at your lotus feet. When he reached the temple, he bowed down before the deity and prayed, my dear Lord, from this day, I am yours in every way. Please accept me. This is very important. Even if one says once that, my dear Lord, I am yours, please accept me. What is that verse of Lord Ram? Sakradeva prapanno yas tava asmi iti sayachate. That even once, if the conditioned soul says that I am surrendering Sakradeva prapanno yas, that in all respects I am surrendering unto you. And what he says, tava asmi, that I am yours, my Lord. Iti sayachate, and he makes a begging, or he makes a call. So the Lord accepts it. As soon as the living entity says that I am yours, the Lord unconditionally accepts it. Thus he obtained saffron colored cloth and staff that has been touched by the lotus feet of Sri Vardharaj. He went outside the temple and after bathing and lit a sacrificial fire on the banks of the lake there. At that time, Kanchipurna, being inspired by Lord Vardharaj, approached him and gave him the name Yatiraj. Yatiraj. Yati means the best of sannyasis. Raja means the king. So Yatiraj means one who is the king of all sannyasis. And that is Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. Rāmānuja then accepted the Tridanda of Vaishnava sannyas. Many times I have discussed that there is a difference between sannyas of Vaishnavas and the sannyas of the Shankaras. Shankaras are Ekdandi sannyasi, whereas the Vaishnavas are Tridandi. Tridandi means Mansa, Vacha and Kaya. By word, by body and by speech. They are dedicating their entire life in the service of the Lord. Rāmānuja then accepted the three danda of Vaishnava sannyas, which symbolizes the surrender of thought, words and deeds in the service of Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the ceremony was completed, Yatiraj in his saffron robe appeared as effulgent as the rising sun. We see the same parallel in the life of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also. When his spiritual master, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj passed away. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur exactly took sannyas in the way, following the footsteps of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. And he took sannyas from Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who had already departed. And Ramanuja now begins his teaching, his preaching. All the people in Kanchipurna were very surprised to hear that Ramanuja had taken sannyas. He was still a very young man, and his wife was extremely beautiful. Some considered him insane, but others began to compare him to great devotee of the past. From all around, people came to see him. The Vaishnavas who stayed at the ashram of Kanchi made him the Acharya. For his good qualities and understanding of the scriptures were well known. Gradually, by one of and twos, disciples began to gather around him. His first disciple was Dasharati. Who is Dasharati? His nephew, who was famous for his knowledge of the Vedas. And Dasharati was not an ordinary boy. He was very scholarly, very knowledgeable. He was so reputed and he had so much of fame as one of the greatest scholars in South India. His second was a young man named Quresh, who had wonderful memory. And Quresh was very opulent. Quresh was the son of a very, very wealthy landlord near to Kanchi. So these two were one of the most outstanding disciples of Sri Ramanuja. And not only these young men were inspired, even the teacher, the ex-teacher of Ramanuja, who is Yadav Prakash, he was also inspired. One day, while the elderly mother of Yadav Prakash came to the temple to see Lord Varadaraj, she noticed Ramanuja instructing his disciples outside the ashram. Being captivated by the gracefulness and scholarship, she considered that if her son were to become So the mother of Yadav Prakash, she visits the temple of Lord Varadaraj and she gets the audience of Ramanuja. When she returns home, she begged her son to go and become a disciple of Ramanuja. But Yadav Prakash would not hear of surrendering to one who had previously been his own student. Still, however, his mind remained disturbed once he happened to meet with Kanchipurna and inquired from him, "Sir, I am very troubled at heart and can find no peace. As you are well known as the one through whom Lord Varadaraj gave his instruction, please tell me what I must do." "Go home now," replied Kanchipurna. "Tonight I will pray to Lord Varadaraj. If you come to me tomorrow, I will tell you his instructions." When they meet the following day, Kanchipurna immediately began to describe the greatness of Ramanuja and the benefit one might derive from becoming his disciple. On hearing this, Yadav Prakash decided to go and visit Ramanuja at the ashram and discuss the scriptures with him. So we see the purity of Sri Ramanuja. He was so pure and so potent that even his previous teacher, the personalist teacher, Yadav Prakash, he takes shelter and he becomes disciple of Ramanuja. And after he takes to the discipleship of Rāmānujācārya, his heart is completely transformed. And Yadav Prakash becomes a great devotee. And he also gives the Bhakti Shastra. Accordingly, Yadav Prakash wrote a wonderful book called the Yati Dharma Samuchaya, which he offered at the feet of his Guru. At that time, Yadav Prakash, or Govind Das, as he was now known, was over 80 years old. And after completion of the book, he passed away. So Rāmānujācārya now was preaching very forcibly, and he started to travel from Kanchipuram. He had two of his foremost devotees in the name of Dasarathi and Kuresh. So while all these events were taking place in Kanchipurna, the devotees in Srirangam were still feeling the lack of Acharya to guide them. And their ardent desire of all of them was that Ramanuja should come there and be their preceptor. So Mahapurna had come, he had initiated, and he had given some learning, some teaching to Ramanuja, but he could not still bring Ramanuja back. So all the disciples of Yamunacharya in Srirangam, they were still waiting for Ramanuja to come. So what they did, they thought that they should send someone who would charm Lord Varadaraj. And when Lord Varadaraj allows Ramanuja to leave from Kanchipuram, then only he can come to Srirangam. So there was one disciple of Yamunacharya called Sri Vararanga. And Vararanga had the very beautiful gift that he would sing very melodiously. He would sing so sweet. He would every day recite for the pleasure of Lord Ranganath. And it was decided that Vararanga would go to Kanchipuram and he would sing for the pleasure of Lord Varadaraj. And when Lord Varadaraj will be very happy hearing his bhajans, and when Varadaraj, who is the chief of the bestower of the benedictions, he will invite Vararanga to ask for a boon, he will ask for Ramanuja. And in this way, they thought that they can have Ramanuja back in Srirangam. So Vararanga comes, and Vararanga, he stays in the temple of Lord Varadaraj, and he starts to sing. And by his singing, he charms. Vararanga was the son of Yamunacharya. He was a renowned singer, and he had set to music the beautiful verses known as the Shahas Giti. Having received this instruction, Mahapurna sent Vararanga to Kanchipuram after instructing him how he should accomplish his mission. Every day in the temple of Varadaraj, Vararanga would sing bhajans before the Lord in such an exquisite way that anyone who heard him would become struck with wonder and filled with ecstasy. Eventually, Lord Varadaraj became so pleased with Vararanga that he offered him a benediction in return to his service. Of course, Vararanga requested the Lord's permission for Ramanuja to come to Srirangam to be the Acharya of the Vaishnava there. Ramanuja was sorry to leave Kanchipuram, particularly as this meant losing the association of Kanchipuram. But at the same time, he was pleased at the prospect of being a disciple of Yamunacharya. Thus, it was with mixed feelings that he set off with Vararanga a few days later to make his journey from Kanchipuram to Srirangam. So then he starts to travel. He leaves Kanchipuram and goes to Srirangam. While they were going in the way, all the people of Rangashet were delighted when Natiraj arrived in the city, and the assembly of Vaishnavas immediately installed him as the Acharya. Lord Ranganath was also very pleased to see his pure-hearted devotee in his temple, and he bestowed upon him 2 mystic powers. So as he soon comes to Srirangam, he gets the blessing of Lord Ranganath. What is the blessing? That the ability to cure the sick. So Ramanuja gets the ability to cure the sick. Any kind of sickness is there, it can be healed by Ramanuja. And the strength to protect the devotees from illusion. So this was his vow, that I will free the world from illusion. So how he could do so? By the blessings of his Guru and the blessings of the Lord. On hearing the news of Rāmānujācārya coming to Śrīrangam, many Vaishnavas from the surrounding area came to see him and were all thrilled to hear his wonderful explanations of Vaishnava philosophy. So in this way, we see, but there are always challenges. There are always very stiff opposition. At that time, in South India, it was not that everybody was Sri Vaishnava, follower of Lord Vishnu. There were many Shaivites who were dead against the Vaishnavas. And these Shaivites were very powerful because most of the South Indian kings, they were also the followers of these Shaivites. So now having come now to Śrīrangam and having the association of Mahapurna, one day Mahapurna instructed Rāmānuja to go and get blessings of another Yamunacharya's very powerful disciple called Goshti Purna. So how many Purnas we have covered so far? There's one more. There are many Purnas in Rāmānujācārya's life. So many Gurus he has. The first one is the Shaila Purna, and Kanchi Purna, and Mahapurna. His music guru is who? Who is his music guru? Vararanga. Vararanga. So Mahapurna tells Rāmānuja to go to Goshti Purna, because Goshti Purna had a very powerful mantra, and whoever could receive that mantra, he would definitely be elevated to go to the abode of Lord Narayan. After coming to Śrīrangam, Rāmānuja was very pleased to resume his role as the disciple of Mahapurna. Through his relationship, he felt relief from the sadness that has afflicted him since the disappearance of Yamunacārya. By his behavior toward Mahapurna, he set the example of all disciples to follow in rendering service to their spiritual master. Under the expert guidance of Mahapurna, he resumed his study of the revealed scriptures. Mahapurna was so impressed by the incomparable genius and Vaishnava qualities of his disciple that he gave his son Pundarikaksha to be the disciple of Rāmānuja. Another feather. Rāmānuja became the guru of his guru's son, Mahapurna. One evening when they had completed their studies for the day, Mahapurna said to Rāmānuja, "Not far from here is a prosperous town known as Tirukotayur." Tirukotayur. I remember when we were going in South India. You remember? Ganesh, I told you Tirukotayur. At one point I was trying to tell you Tirukotayur.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so this is the same place. Living here is a great scholar and devotee. This is the place where Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya received that mantra. Tirukotayur. It was near to our airport when we were coming from Rameshwaram. When we were coming from Rameshwaram to the airport. So Tirukotayur came in between. The great scholar and devotee called Goshti Purna. So he is this another Purna. Shaila Purna, Kanchi Purna, Mahapurna, and now the Goshti Purna. Don't worry, you will remember. If you are hearing with heart, you will remember. You will not get confused. And I'll share this very beautiful write-up. Manish Prabhu, you give short write-up, but you see what is a detailed write-up. This is an offering. So 97-page write-up and very exquisitely written. It is just like, you are entering into Rāmānujācārya's Leela. One evening when they had completed their studies for the day, Mahapurna said to Rāmānuja, okay, so then not far from here is the prosperous town known as Tirukotayur. Living there is a great scholar and devotee Goshti Purna by name, who was born in the Pandya country. It is no exaggeration to say that there is no other Vaishnava like him in this part of the country. If you desire to fully learn the meaning and significance of the Vedic mantras, then there is none but he who is qualified to teach you. I advise you to go to Tirukotayur without delay and receive the mantra from Goshti Purna. Having received this instruction from his guru, Ramanuja went to Tirukotayur a few days later to see Goshti Purna. In the presence of the famous devotee, he offered his prostrated obeisances and begged for the Vaishnava mantra to be bestowed upon him. He is an Acharya, mind you. He is not just Ramanuja. He has already been inducted as the successor to Yamunacharya. And it is known to everyone. But you see what is the response. Goshti Purna, however, is very reluctant to impart the secret of the mantra and replied, "You may come here some other day. I will consider your request." Ramanuja felt very dejected at this reply, and with a very heavy heart, he returned to Srirangam. 17 times, not once or twice, 17 times, Śrīpāda Rāmānujā approached Goshti Purna, and he would travel from Srirangam to Tirukotayur, and every time he was told by Goshti Purna that you come some other time. But he was following the instruction of his spiritual master, his initiating spiritual master. He never ever thought to leave it. A few days later, after a big festival was held in the honor of Lord Ranganath, and Goshti Purna came there to take part in the worship. So this is Goshti Purna coming to Srirangam. At that time, one of the priests in the temple was inspired by Lord Ranganath, and he spoke as follows to Goshti Purna: "You should bestow the mantra on my devotee Ramanuja, who is most worthy to receive it." You see, Lord Ranganath personally told Goshti Purna that you should award this mantra to my devotee Ramanuja. We see in the life of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Who is the spiritual master of Srila Narottam Das Thakur? Hello? So many times you have heard on Narottam Das Thakur.
Prabhuji, Srila Lochan Das Thakur.
What nonsense. Lochan Das Thakur. Lochan Das Thakur is a disciple of Narhari Sarkar Thakur. You are all confused. You don't hear attentively. Sonika, you are there?
Yes, Prabhuji. I'm not able to recall it.
Very famous. Very, very famous. Yes, Manish Prabhu.
Prabhuji Loknath Goswami.
Yeah, Loknath Goswami. And Loknath Goswami was so renounced that he always said no. So Mahaprabhu personally came and told him that why don't you accept Narottam? Mahaprabhu had already bestowed his love to Narottam. But Mahaprabhu also told Narottam that you go and take shelter of Loknath Goswami. And Loknath Goswami was not accepting him. So similarly here, Goshti Purna was not accepting Ramanuja. Lord Ranganath had to personally intervene. And he said that please accept and give the mantra to Ramanuja. So the priest said to Goshti Purna, you do not understand the purity of this devotee. He is able to deliver all of humanity. After this incident, Goshti Purna began to consider the matter deeply. But still he was unwilling to give mantra to any other person. Time and again Ramanuja approached him, but repeatedly Goshti Purna refused his request. When his appeals has been denied on 18 separate occasions, Ramanuja began to feel that there must be some great impurity in his heart, and that it was for this reason that Goshti Purna would not bestow his mercy upon him. In the state of dejection, Rāmānuja began to shed tears of despair. When some people informed Goshtipurna of Rāmānuja's condition, he was moved by pity for the young devotee. Therefore, when Rāmānuja came before him again, he spoke to him in a kind way. Only Lord Vishnu himself is aware of the glories of this mantra. Now I know that you are worthy to receive it. Even if the Lord has recommended, so this was the exemplary character. If we are told no once or twice, then what we will do? We will not even ask. There will be no desire left. But it is not the case with Rāmānujācārya. Same we see in the life of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He also wanted to take initiation from Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. And Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj was refusing. He refused many times. And then he said, okay, if Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally instructs me, then only I can accept. So finally, Goshtipurna's heart melts and he agrees to give that very empowered mantra to Rāmānuja. For whoever chants it is certain to go to Vaikuntha at the time of death. Because this mantra is so pure and sacred, it must not be touched by the lips of anyone who has material desires. Therefore, you must not disclose this mantra to any other person. So this was the strict condition. Having thus instructed Rāmānuja, Goshtipurna initiated him into the chanting of the mantra of 8 syllables. This is 8 syllables. Few days back I was reading from this section of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that was the 18 syllable mantra. That is the Gopal Gayatri. Anyway, so Rāmānuja was filled with ecstasy to chant this wonderful vibration. And his face began to glow with spiritual effulgence. He considered himself the most blessed of all beings and bowed again and again at the feet of his Guru. Now you see, Rāmānuja has received the mantra. And this mantra is so powerful that whoever chants this mantra, he will directly go to the abode of Lord Vishnu, Vaikuntha. No one can stop him. And after being dejected 18 times, he received the mantra, and under the strict condition that under no consideration he will disclose this mantra to any second person. But you see how Rāmānuja responds. Having taken leave of Sri Goshtipurna, Rāmānuja in a joyful mood began to return to Srirangam. But as he was walking, he began to think about the potency of the mantra that had been given to him. While thinking in this way, he became filled with feeling of compassion for the suffering of all living beings in this material world. Then as he was walking near the walls of Vishnu temple in Tirupotayur, he began to call out to all people who were passing by, please all of you come near to Lord Vishnu's temple and I will give you a priceless jewel. Attracted by his pure expression and unusual words, a large crowd of men, women and children began to follow him. And rumor began to spread all over the town that a prophet had appeared who would fulfill all of one's desire within a short time. Of huge crowd had assembled outside of the temple. On seeing this mass of humanity, Yatiraj, Rāmānuja, heart swelled with joy, he embraced the 2 disciples who had accompanied him, Dasharathi and Puresh, and he then climbed up the tower of the temple. In a loud voice, he began to address the gathering. All of you are more dear to me than my own life. This is the compassion. All of you are more dear to me than my own life. Therefore, I have a strong desire to deliver you from the torments and sufferings all of us must undergo in this temporary world. Please recite this mantra which I have obtained for you. Do this and the Lord's mercy will be upon you. When they heard Rāmānuja's word, all the people in the crowd called out, please tell us the mantra, shower the Lord's blessing upon us. Then Yatiraj called out in a deep resounding voice the mantra he had just received from Goshtipurna. Om Namo Narayanaya. Immediately the crowd responded. Everyone calling out the sacred words together produced a sound like thunder. Twice more Ramanuja called out the mantra, and twice more the thunderous response resounded from the crowd. Every person became silent and looked at one another with feeling of deep ecstasy in their heart. At that time, it seemed that the earth had become Vaikuntha. The faces of the men, women, and children were flushed with joy, and it seemed that all their miseries were gone from the earth. Those who had come running to the temple hoping to receive gold or jewels immediately forgot their worldly desires, feeling as if they had been given a diamond in place of the piece of a broken glass. As the joyful crowd melted away, men and women came and prostrated themselves before Yatiraj, considering themselves most blessed to have received such a benediction from that great soul. Ramanuja then climbed down from the tower and began walking towards Goshtipunna's residence to worship the feet of his Guru. Just imagine what will happen. Huh? Are you in the Leela? The Guru had said not to disclose the mantra to any person. And what Ramanuja did? He gave the mantra freely to everyone. And on top of that, he has the courage to go back and submit to his Guru. By the time Goshtipunna had come to hear in detail everything that had taken place outside the temple, I will just take this pastime and then I will wind up. It is already 9. And I am reading why? Because I want all of you to read it. Keep it with you. If not now, but do read it. Don't leave it. Very, very well written and in depth. It gives the entire discourse of Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya. So Ramanuja had betrayed the trust of his spiritual master. When Ramanuja approached him with his 2 disciples, the aged Acharya addressed him in a voice that trembled with rage. Get out of my sight, O lowest of men. I have committed a great sin by entrusting the most precious gem to such an untrustworthy person as yourself. Why have you come here again, forcing me to commit the sin of looking at your face? Surely you are destined to live in hell for countless lifetimes. This is the curse Ramanuja receives from Goshtipunna. Without any sign of remorse, Ramanuja replied to his Guru in a most humble manner, saying, it was only because I am prepared to suffer in hell that I dare to go against your order. You told me that whoever chanted the mantra of 8 syllables was certainly to be liberated. Thus, according to your words, so many people are now destined to find shelter at Lord Narayan's lotus feet. If an insignificant person like me has to go to hell, it is of no great importance if so many others thereby attain the mercy of Lord Narayan. See such compassion. Ramanuja wants to go to hell to suffer, but he wants all others to be delivered. On hearing these words, which fully revealed the depth of the devotee's compassion, Goshtipunna was completely stunned and filled with great wonder. All his fierce anger disappeared in an instant like the passing of violent storm. He embraced Ramanuja with profound affection. Everyone who was able to witness this transformation was filled with joy and astonishment. Goshtipunna then addressed Ramanuja with folded palms. My child, I have never known anyone so magnanimous as yourself. From this day, you are my Guru and I am your disciple. There is no doubt that you are a most intimate associate of the Lord, whereas I am nothing but a common man. How can I comprehend your greatness? Please forgive me for all my offenses. Ramanuja fell to his knees and clasped the feet of his Guru. With his head bowed in humanity, he said, you are my eternal Guru. The perfect mantra has become even more potent because it has emanated from your lips. Thus today it has burned to ashes the miseries of so many thousands of people. Although I committed the order of my Guru, I have become eternally fortunate by receiving your embrace, which is desired even by the gods. My prayer is that regarding me as your son and servant, you will eternally bestow your mercy upon me. Being highly pleased by Ramanuja's humility and gentle behavior, Koshtipurna asked him to accept his son, Somanarayan, as his disciple. Before this, whom did he accept? Whom did he accept? Huh?
Mahaprabhu's son.
Yes. So you see, Ramanuja is such a great devotee and such an acharya that all his gurus, their son became his disciple. After this incident, Yatiraj's fame expanded even further. And for several weeks, so then there is this very important aspect of his two very great stalwart, not two, four of his disciples. But see, I cannot, conclude in two classes for Rāmānujācārya. When we go to next South Indian Yatra, we will have 2 days to hear Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya's Katha. And in the meanwhile, I'll share this write-up. It is not big. It is of only 97 pages. And quickly with you, I have ran in 2 days, 46 pages. So maybe 1 or 2 days more, you can, on your own, study this. But I must tell you, this is very well written. So absorbing, and it presents the lifelike recitation of the incidents which happened in Rāmānujācārya's life. And his disciples, 4 of his disciples, we draw so much of inspiration from Dasharati, Puresh, and who was the one who is there in Tirupati? Sonika, you don't speak. What is the name? Ravinder, you went to South India. What is the name of that Acharya? Bad. I have given the name also. Ananta Acharya. Who made that garden? Ananta Acharya. And there is also one more. He is a Grihastha disciple. So you will learn so much. So great Acharyas, they have great disciples. So Rāmānujācārya's life is so glorious. His contribution is so immense. And Mahaprabhu accepted 2 very important aspects of his teachings. Is Shuddha Bhakti. Bhakti which is devoid of karma and jnana. And Bhakta Jana Seva. His service to the Vaishnavas. Okay, I'll stop here. And I will not take any questions or comments. Tomorrow is 2nd. Tomorrow we won't have a class because I have services, because day after tomorrow is a very special day. It is the appearance day of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. So, if one wants to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, what one has to do? One has to receive the mercy of Lord Nityananda. So please try to come to the temple. We will have Abhishek at 10:30 in the morning. And there is fasting that day. Please observe fasting till 12. And only Ekadashi Prasad to be accepted. And hopefully we will have class. You will hear the glories of Lord Nityananda from Chaitanya Charitamrita. There is a full chapter dedicated by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami on the glories of Nityananda Prabhu. So thank you very much. Śrīpāda Rāmānujācārya ki jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Upasthit sabhi bhakta vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. I'll share this PDF and you can retain it with you. And whenever when Rāmānujācārya's appearance or disappearance, it will take only 1 night. I have studied the full PDF in 1 night. When the first time was preparing, I did not sleep that night when I started this. I read it from first page to the last page. The next day, I gave class on this. And that imprint is there in my heart. I hope it remains forever till the time I exist. Such great Acharya and such great writer.